Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. We hear the voice from Australia, the Philippines, India, Malaysia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States, China, and Hong Kong. Welcome all of you to this webinar. This is the first time that Hong Kong Blind Union organized a webinar on web accessibility. This is Jason Ho from Hong Kong. May I make some announcements before we start the webinar? During the webinar, your microphones will be muted. Please do not unmute your microphone. If you need to communicate with us, please use the chat dialog. And if at any time during the webinar your connection is not very smooth, please try to exit and rejoin the meeting. Most of the time, this will be fixed. And the webinar will last for about 1.5 hours. And after the keynote speech from different speakers, we will have around 15 minutes for Q&A session. And if you wish to ask a question, please send us to the host by using the chat dialog. And we will try to answer as many questions from you as possible. So we will start the webinar now. And web and mobile apps accessibility has become a very critical factor for the realization of the rights of people with visual impairment. Information technology brings along opportunities for an inclusive society. It enables people with visual impairment to be on the same footing with sighted counterparts, including in our education, employment, and social life. However, we always found that the lack of accessibility to web and mobile apps will mean an exclusion, which denial and limit people with visual impairment in all areas of citizens' life. So Hong Kong Blind Union has been an active advocate for computer literacy and web accessibility and mobile accessibility. Therefore, we conduct this webinar to announce the result of the accessibility standard of in our region, the Asia Pacific region, and we also have the expert from the web accessibility to speak on the issue, and we will also have the best practice sharing. Before that, may we invite the president of World Blind Union, Mr. Frederick Schroeder, to give us a welcoming remark. Fred, please.
Thank you. And are you able to hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect. Well, good morning to all of you, and congratulations on this very important webinar. You all know the importance of accessibility as it applies to technology generally and to specific applications that are very common today on mobile phones. This evening, I used a mobile phone app to order my dinner. We, with COVID-19, have been using the apps to order groceries. There are many areas of commerce today that require some type of technology, and to have that technology be accessible is critical to the full integration, the full and equal participation of blind and partially sighted people. It's much more than simply ordering dinner. It applies also to education. It applies to the workplace. We're using a webinar platform, and many of the webinar platforms that are being commonly put into practice around the world are either inaccessible or only partially accessible. And for blind people to be able to work and to participate, we need accessibility. It's a priority for us, and we need to help government and the private sector, that is to say, companies, business. We need to help society generally understand that there is benefit in creating an inclusive world where all people can participate and be productive. I don't want to take more time, but just let me conclude by congratulating our Asia Pacific region and the Hong Kong Blind Union for organizing this event, and I'm looking forward to the content. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Fred, for the welcoming remark. And although the president of World Blind Union Asia Pacific, Ms. Michiko Tabata, cannot join us real time, she has already video recorded her welcoming speech to us. It's the time for Michiko.
Distinguished guests, dear friends and colleagues, welcome to the webinar on web accessibility. The World Blind Union Asia Pacific would like to express our deep felt appreciation to the members of the Hong Kong Blind Union and everyone else who supported the organizing of this important event. Accessibility of websites and smartphone apps is the issue that we, the blind and partially sighted people, face in every step of our life, especially now that information and communication technology has emerged as one of the promising solutions for education, employment, mobility, entertainment and leisure, disaster management, and so forth. Access to information is by far the most important to live through the time of the pandemic that is still going on today. There are numerous initiatives around the world to make websites and apps accessible in order to leave no one behind, as the Sustainable Development Goals say. Although there are some progresses, we still have a long way to go. The numerous initiatives are in fact the proof of the long path lying before us. Today's webinar is a part of the Asia Pacific region's campaign on web accessibility, propelled by the hard work of the Hong Kong Blind Union. In the webinar, there will be presentations on the observation of the current situation made visible through the survey conducted within the region. But we, the blind community, share the web accessibility no matter where you are from this world. And this event will leave a significant footstep for our continued work in the future. Dear friends, it is with regret that I will not be able to join you on a real-time basis, but hope that those attending today's seminar will bring back ideas and inspirations to move closer to an accessible information and communications technology and a fully accessible cyberspace. Thank you and best wishes. Michiko Tabata, President, World Blind Union Asia Pacific.
Thank you, Michiko. In the Webline Union Asia Pacific Regional Midterm General Assembly held in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia in 2018, the Hong Kong Blind Union was asked to initiate a web accessibility campaign. So Hong Kong Blind Union conducted a survey on web accessibility adoption level within the region in 2019 with the aim to provide basic reference for the WBUAP members in formulating future plans and strategies in promoting web accessibility. So today, Mr. Chong Chang-Yo, the President of Hong Kong Blind Union and the member of the Policy Board and Policy Council of World Blind Union Asia Pacific will announce the result. Chang-Yo, please.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, on the behalf of the Hong Kong Blind Union, I would like to once again thank Fred, the President of the World Blind Union, to give us a very encouraging, welcoming speech from Washington. And he has pledged to stay on to listen to the seminar, even though it is now very late in his time zone. I also would like to welcome Judy Brewer, Director of W3C WAI, who has been our friend and supporter for many years and hold the standard of web accessibility for the world around. So thank you for coming along, and we'll look forward to listening to you. And also welcome to Robert Su from HSBC, and also representing the Association of Banks of Hong Kong to tell us the industry's perspective on web accessibility. I would also like to thank Michiko, and I would let her hear our remarks later because it will be recorded. And so for giving us a welcoming remark. So finally, of course, I would like to welcome all the participants from around the region, and some are outside of the regions, from all the way across the Pacific in Canada and the United States. Some of the countries were not mentioned before. We might have missed you, but welcome, like Japan, or even places that we might have missed you, but you are welcome. Mongolia, where we started this conversation about promoting a regional accessibility campaign. So I will go into the content of the report very quickly. It took us a year to complete the study, and simply because it takes time for people to respond. And it's not easy because people are not particularly able to give priority to survey or regional initiative. So that's the reality on the ground. But finally, we got 15 responses after sending to 21 countries, okay? And we grouped them into 12 responses. China and Hong Kong are treated as two separate respondents. So 11 countries, but 12 country/regions, okay? So the survey was done in two parts. Part one was on a question response, which I will share the results. And part two, very interesting, was a test of selective sites from the country with questionnaire response. We selected 6 sectors, and I will cover them, including banks, medical service, media, online shopping, and so on. So we'll cover them. And we can only test a selective parts of the websites. We chose the main page and 4 immediately related pages from 4 functions of the main websites. We adopted WCAG 2.1 as the standard and chose 10 criteria to do the testing. So these are rather technical things, so I would stop, and if people have questions, you can ask. I would like to talk about a rider before we go into the results. These tests are done, only represented a minor part of the websites and a minor part of the countries, of the industry. So we only do this as a stimulus for further work. And we are also limited in resources. And so, but we genuinely devote all the expertise that we know of. And Hong Kong Blind Union has set up a social enterprise on web accessibility, and we are the leading web accessibility testing and consulting organization in Hong Kong. We are responsible for most of the websites which aspire to make themselves accessible, including lately the guideline from the Association of Banks, and therefore a lot of mobile banks come to us. And Hong Kong Blind Union has a history of promoting IT applications for people with visual impairment. We are the users and we are the advocates as well. And we are the problem solvers. So we started forming a computer organization back in 1981. And we are responsible for promoting electronic publishing of Braille in Hong Kong and China as one example of our work in this area. And in 1998, we promoted to the Hong Kong government to adopt accessibility design in all its websites. And the proposal was accepted and implemented. And the government of Hong Kong since then has been an example, I would say, a model of web accessibility, and also in promoting social and economic industrial adoption of accessibility standard. So we'll go into it. So I'm not here to promote our government, but I just mention this as a historic fact. To give you a background of the testing ability in the Hong Kong Blind Union. So we are not new to this area. We are the leader in this area, to be a humble leader, okay? So it just shows you we are as users and as advocates and also as problem solvers. Okay, I'll go into some of the results of the finding. So we have 12 respondents: Australia, China, Hong Kong, Japan, Laos, Malaysia, Mongolia, Myanmar, the Philippines, South Korea, Thailand, and Vietnam. So we hope to be more, but next time. Some of the responses we have been waiting for a long time. So so we don't intend this to present this as a comprehensive regional report. It's a beginning. So among the 12 responses, 8 has reported of legislation, regulations on web accessibility requirements, and 7 highlighted some initiative in strategy, policy by governments. Only 4, I would say, mention the same in mobile apps. So there is a discrepancy between web and app accessibility. Congratulations to W3C and WAI. 11 of the responses indicated that they are aware of web accessibility initiative, and they adopted the WCAG as their standard of compliance. Only, again, 4 mentioned the same with mobile apps. So that this is a big discrepancy. In education and consultation service, 5 mentioned that the mainstream information technology education has included web accessibility as part of their curriculum. So a lot of improvement to be made. And there are 7 respondents who reported the existence of professional accessibility consultants in their area, in their territories. So the barriers and difficulties being reported include lack of or insufficient legislation and regulation and enforcement and implementation. So there might be regulations, there might be lacking in enforcement, okay? Lack of awareness on the designer, developer, and community, and even investor community in IT. There is a lack of formal training. There is a lack of resources as well. So we'll cover those areas in our recommendations. The second part of the web accessibility testing. So we, as mentioned before, we adopted 10 criteria from the WCAG standard as guideline. So only 2 respondents have met all 10 criteria in government portal. So they are Hong Kong and the Philippines. So, and the average score, we give an average score is 1.28 with 2 as maximum, okay? But don't worry about these figures because they're just indications, okay? And 5 out of 12 responses have met all 10 criteria in the banking categories. So a lot of improvement here as well. Australia, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, and Mongolia, okay? The overall score is 1.33. I probably will not cover the score because it's may not be too meaningful. And then of the transportation area, only 2, Australia and Japan, have met all the 10 criteria, okay? In terms of media, only 3 out of the 12 responses met all the criteria: Australia, Hong Kong, and Mongolia. But by the way, personally, I'm not too satisfied with the Hong Kong media in this area. But okay, that's a personal note. In the area of healthcare, unfortunately, no respondents have met all 10 criteria. And the same applies to online shopping. So these 2 areas, medical care and online shopping, are particularly relevant to us during the COVID-19 period. And unfortunately, they are the area where we find the least able to meet the 10 criteria from WCAG. So on average, after, well, this is again very artificial, okay? So of all the 6 sectors, we make a combined figure, and we find that Australia obtained the highest score, South Korea the 2nd, and Hong Kong the 3rd. Okay, so again, I don't want people to take too much of this ranking. We know in school how school reports are not accurate in our performance and future career. So, but I hope that people, affiliates, will have some ground to promote web accessibility with this stimulating these results as a stimulants, okay? Of the, again, of the all the 6 criteria, the online shopping, medical care are the area requiring most effort in improving. A lot of the common problem are missing text description. Some content cannot be operated through keyboard. Missing link text. Well, so these are the biggest problem. Okay, 47 out of the 72 sites that we tested do not have text description, or have missing text description rather. It's not a complete yes or no, okay? And 36 out of 72 cannot be fully operated through keyboard. I say fully, okay? Missing links, 34 out of 72. So still a lot of areas for improvement, okay? So recommendation and conclusions. Now, we still believe that the government plays a critical leadership role. So we believe that the legislation should be improved and increased. And we hope that all the countries can join together to work towards these recommendations. Let me go through them. Legislation and regulation, so that's an important one. And especially in mobile apps, so don't forget about mobile apps. The second is industry self-regulations. We believe that stock exchanges in listing requirements is one example. Association of banks is another example. And here I take the opportunity to compliment the Hong Kong Association of Banks for issuing a guideline last year. And we haven't, we hope that this is also being done elsewhere. And award and recognition schemes are also helpful. So apart from punishment and complaint process, that should be in place. We also believe that the name and shame strategy towards promoting web accessibility should also be implemented. So the second part is in training in institution. We propose to make accessible design a integral part of any technical training in tertiary education, technical institutes relating to IT. Some proposal covers, say, establishment of accessibility open academy, whatever that means. Okay, so a dedicated academy to web accessibility. Development of easy guides to inform design applications. So that's helpful to the industry. Increasing availability of resources to meet technical and non-technical needs. In simplifying WCAG 2.1 and provide a free training. So that's for Judy to comment. Conducting public awareness programs at technical schools, and I would say even outside, okay? The sharing of resources. So this is for WBUAP and also WBU worldwide. So I hope Fred take it to the officers meeting that we should promote sharing of resources, resource bank, best practices, user feedback, and so on. Easy to read booklet, case studies. So all these things can be gathered together, okay? So in conclusion, we will say web accessibility, again, to remind all of us, is a critical factor in the realization of full citizens' rights. It's part of the Convention on Rights of People with Disabilities in section 9 on accessible information. It's a critical part to education, employment, and all aspects of social life. So it can be an opportunity. It can also be a threat, a denial of opportunities if it is not well embraced. So we hope that we propose that the World Blind Union, WAP, take this as a regular exercise. Somebody, now as a small organization, we don't have the resources, but if we have the resources, we can make this an annual study and also enrich and improve the methodology, which right now has a lot of loopholes. And we know that, okay? But all the tests are conducted professionally, but the scope has a lot of improvement because we are limited by the resources that we have. I probably have taken more time than I'm allowed to, but I hope you enjoy this report, and I look forward to responding to your questions.
Okay, thank you, Chen Yo.